What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I want to give an update on my favourite penny stock at the moment in the form of HighTide, ticker symbol HITIF. I want to very briefly look at the current share price and how my current holding is doing, but most importantly today I want to look at a very well laid out article that really does back up everything I've said about this company over the past few weeks. And with all that being said, let's dive right on into today's video. As it stands, HighTide is the one and only penny stock in my portfolio at the moment. We can see here on the left, we currently have €8,795 invested, up €1,252 or 16.6%. We also have €100 in free funds, which I discussed in yesterday's video, and my plans on investing that over the coming week. Now, I don't usually invest in penny stocks, mainly because I much prefer the kind of consistent, long-term, kind of realistic goals as such. But really, HighTide was that one penny stock that really stood out for me in terms of actually having genuine catalysts and fundamentals that will make it a good company going forward. Ironically enough, even though HighTide is one of the more promising stocks going forward in my opinion, it's probably one of the worst performing in my portfolio, which I know is ironic. But at the moment we have 371 shares, are down 17% at the moment. Now, I've stated in prior videos as well, again I'll link these in the description below, of why I think this is happening. And kind of in summary, I believe that the bigger institutional investors are really kind of dumping the stock, effectively dropping the share price drastically. Again, penny stocks are very volatile, but again, they're also very liquid. So I believe that they're dropping this price and then buying in at a cheaper price, effectively dropping their overall average cost. Because everything that we'll discuss later on in the video, everything is going in the right direction for HighTide, and it's very hard to find any negative news on this company. So we can see here on the 3-month chart, it's currently trading at about 50 cent or 51 cent a share. Now, it was dropped below the 50 cent mark a few days back, but it has recovered, albeit slightly. You can see on the dotted line here, my average price is about 60 cent a share. So I'm kind of hoping over the next few weeks to get this down as close as I can to the 50 cent mark. Now, I know if I was you watching this video, I'd be like, why is he kind of praising the stock if it's down so much? Well, this just poses a great opportunity to buy at an even cheaper price in my opinion. For example, at the moment we're down 17%. Now, at the start we were up about 10% when I bought in first. But again, as a long-term investor, I'm not kind of just trying to hype and dump this stock. I genuinely believe that this penny stock has a lot of potential going forward. And obviously I'm not a financial advisor, so you need to do your own due diligence before investing any of your hard-earned money. But again, this is just my own personal opinion. And at down 17% at the moment, this poses a great opportunity in my own opinion to get in at a very cheap price. Now, one piece of advice I would give is, for example, I have €100 free funds here, and you could say, hang on, if you think this is such good stock, why don't you invest a further €100 here into this stock? However, going forward, penny stocks are very volatile, so I really do recommend, if you are investing in any stocks for that matter, to not put all of your money in at once, slowly drip feed it in, because if it goes down further in price, you can capitalize on this and get in at an even cheaper average price, or if it goes up in price, well and good, you actually got stocks at an even better price. As I've stated in prior videos, I like to jot down all the kind of main fundamentals that are positive and even negative for that matter, and also catalysts going forward, and HighTide is no different here. We can see on the screen here on my Word doc, I have a list of bullet points that act as catalysts and fundamentals for the stock going forward. Again, this isn't an exhausted list, this is just the main ones, and we can see everything on here is very positive. For example, they have a great product offering and diversification. Again, I've discussed all this in prior videos in the description below, so I won't go into detail here. With the celebrity endorsement, they have a great CEO in the form of Raj. They're ever expanding, which we'll discuss later on. They're the leading Canadian cannabis stock. Again, we'll discuss this later on as well. They have huge potential at current prices. And when I wrote this out, this was at about 60 cent a share. So this even backs it up even more now that it's close to the 50 cent mark. They're also filing for the NASDAQ, which is still ongoing. We'll give an update on that later on as well. That will have a huge benefit and catalyst going forward if they do get onto the NASDAQ. The mergers and acquisitions are going very well at the moment. For example, they're kind of getting into the kind of e-commerce side of things a lot more, which they were lacking in. So by these mergers and acquisitions of these other cannabis companies, this is really of huge benefit for the stock. We can also see here they had great Q1 earnings. Again, all this is in the description below. And also Q4 from last year was just as good. So it's very promising, and there was not one bit of negative news I could find in that earnings report, which is great to see. Also, they're trying to reduce their interest rates and reduce their overall loans, which again, as a penny stock, is one of their main kind of criteria. And finally, they're ever expanding and they're opening more and more stores throughout Canada going forward. So this then led me on to this very good article, in my opinion, on ProfitConfidential.com, where it says HighTide is an ignored pot stock, up 150% in 2021 and poised for massive growth. Now we'll have a look through this article, and it really does back up everything I've said over the last few weeks on this stock. So the first thing that stands out on this article is that HighTide stock is up over 400% year over year and up 150% year to date. Now it just shows below here as well, in February it's down 40% since its all-time highs in February, which again screams kind of bargain price for me. And as a long-term investor, I really do feel that this current price is very attractive. Now the first thing on this article is a kind of overview of HighTide. Now I've done all this before, so I don't really want to go into too much detail, but it's basically in summary here, kind of just discussing how they are the leading Canadian cannabis stock, and it's kind of discussing some of the mergers and acquisitions and how well their financials are currently doing. So what I want to do is look through briefly each of the 5 main points on why this website believes HighTide is a current buy, and finally we'll have a look at the analyst review at the very end. So the first point here is their retail footprint expanded across Canada. Now as a penny stock, this is very promising because they continually, time and time again, opening new stores, which really does increase their exposure and overall gives them a better market opportunity to sell to new and current kind of potential consumers. So we can see at the moment they currently have 83 stores across Canada, which is very good to see, especially for a penny stock. That's quite a large number in my opinion. We can see here on screen, for example, they opened a new store in Calgary, and they also have newest kind of open stores in terms of Meta Cannabis, the retail store, and also the branded location in Canada, and they have the 17th store now in Ontario as well. One really big catalyst would be if they got onto the NASDAQ. Now we can see on screen here that they have got another step close to this, and we can see that they have fulfilled a significant milestone in this process, and they have filed for the form, the 40F form, which is the SEC fulfilling, to get onto the NASDAQ. So this would be of huge benefit for the company, and we can see here a quote that I really like, and it's very promising to see as an investor. They can see that they are currently in several discussions and potential acquisitions and targets in these jurisdictions, which would really be of huge benefit and would only increase the share price in my opinion. There was kind of 2 points where I believed HighTide could improve on. The first of these was getting into the US market and getting a better global overall exposure. And the second of these was to get a better e-commerce kind of exposure as well. And they've definitely ticked that box here. We can see in terms of acquisitions of leading e-com retailers, and they have completed an 8 million acquisition of Smoke Cartel, which operates its largest e-commerce platform in the cannabis industry across the globe. Another target of financial gains here is the base shelf prospectus. Now we can see on screen that HighTide have announced they have filed for the base shelf prospectus, which would be up to $100 million. Now we can see highlighted here that HighTide only has a market cap of $313 million, which would suggest a huge financial injection, which could be used for pretty substantial moves. So this is really interesting and exciting news for HighTide. A point that I mentioned earlier in today's video was their strong financial reports, especially in their Q4 earnings report for 2020 and even the Q1 for this year as well. Their net and gross profits have went up and up, which is very promising to see, and consistency is certainly key in these kind of penny stocks, and HighTide is definitely ticking all the boxes here. Even looking through those reports in prior videos, it's very hard to pick any faults at all in what they're doing at the moment. Now again, that could all change tomorrow, but from the past performance, they are looking very promising. Again, their net and gross profits are very promising as well. But one thing they can improve on, and I mentioned this already, was their geographical kind of revenue as well outside of Canada, particularly in the US and Europe. Now again, as a penny stock, you can't really expect too much because they are kind of tied down in terms of some of what they can do, because they wouldn't have the capital at their disposal at the moment. But again, going forward, this is something they could certainly improve and work on. But again, this will all take time, and if they can get across the globe a lot more, especially outside of Canada, this would be huge for the company. So in my opinion, reading these analyst takes really does summarize the overall article, which is very important. So we'll just have a look through this. So you can see here, in 2021, despite some of the challenges that the retailers have posed, the company has crossed over the 80 store milestone in Canada, which we discussed. And by the end of October, HighTide should have over 115 stores. Now I wasn't actually aware of this, but that's very promising to see that they're going to have another about 25 or 35 more stores, which is very promising in the next few months. And also we can see that the company applied for the NASDAQ, which we've already discussed, completed acquisitions, and is pursuing expansion opportunities within the US and Europe, Again, here in the European market, this is a huge untapped market for them, which will be only of benefit. And all of these actions should help the company deliver on its significant growth milestones in 2021 and increase the value of the HighTide stock. Obviously, it's still early days for HighTide, but again, their next quarter earnings will be very interesting to see and could be pivotal, in my opinion. If they can keep up the same growth or even kind of get even near enough to that growth, it'll be huge for this company, as consistency is certainly key, because a lot of shareholders, including myself, would be kind of pessimistic in terms of penny stocks. But again, if they can keep up this growth and prove time and time again that they are expanding, this stock can only take off. In terms of my plan for HighTide going forward, now I have consistently added in small amounts of stocks every so often. Again, consistency is key here, and I've kind of dollar cost average in as it dipped. Now it is down 17% at the moment, but I will give it a small bit of breathing space. Might even wait until the end of this week to see if it's gone down even more. If it does go down even more, or even stays down where it is now, I will probably buy a small few more shares. Now, because it's only sitting at about 50 cents a share, you can kind of get a fairly large amount of shares for a little capital. So even if I put in an extra €20, I'd still probably get another 40 or 50 shares. So again, we'll see at the end of the week how it's performing, and I'll sure to update you in my weekly portfolio update. So that's pretty much it for today's video. I just wanted to give an update on HighTide, ticker symbol HITIF, and this article that really did kind of back up everything we have been saying on this channel over the last few weeks, which is great to see. And again, I know it's only one article, but it is kind of nice to see that other people are thinking similar as well. So that was just I wanted to go through that article to show you kind of what other people are thinking, as well as obviously I'm not a financial advisor, but other people are. So I found that article very interesting, and it really does kind of back up my position in HighTide, in my opinion. If you found this video interesting, it'd be brilliant if you could smash that like button, and I'd love to know in the comment section below if you do hold HighTide, and your reasoning behind this, and also how many shares you have and your price target for HighTide. Thanks very much, enjoy your Tuesday, and I will see y'all in tomorrow's video.